When Madison Cole stood up in that packed courtroom and screamed, "He's mine now," at Sarah Wellington, she thought she'd won everything. The billionaire husband, the teenage daughter's loyalty, the tech empire worth billions. But what Madison didn't know was that Sarah had already uncovered her deepest secret. This wasn't just about a cheating husband or a home-wrecking influencer. This was about Russian spies, stolen military technology, and a conspiracy that threatened national security. Madison thought she was playing chess with a broken housewife. She had no idea she was actually facing a woman with nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. If you're ready for a story about the most epic revenge in modern history, smash that like button and let's dive in. Trust me, you won't see this ending coming. The fluorescent lights of courtroom 12 buzzed overhead as Sarah Wellington sat perfectly still, her hands folded in her lap. Across the aisle, her husband of 20 years lounged back in his chair, his arm draped possessively around a woman young enough to be their daughter, Madison Cole, with her platinum blonde hair and designer dress that cost more than most people's monthly salary. Suddenly shot to her feet, her voice, shrill and triumphant, cut through the courtroom silence like a blade. "You're finished, Sarah. He doesn't want you anymore. He wants me." Madison's perfectly manicured finger pointed directly at Sarah's face. "This whole charade is over. He's mine now." The gallery erupted in shocked whispers. Reporters frantically scribbled notes. David Wellington, tech billionaire and CEO of Wellington Industries, actually smirked at his wife's public humiliation. But Sarah Wellington didn't flinch. She simply turned to her attorney and gave the slightest nod. "Your Honor." Jackson Hayes rose smoothly. "I believe it's time to present our final evidence." 24 hours earlier, Sarah's world had been crumbling. Now, she was about to watch her enemies destroy themselves with their own arrogance. Let's go back to where it all began. Sarah had always been the smartest person in the room. Even when that room was filled with Silicon Valley's brightest minds, 25 years ago, fresh out of MIT with a computer science degree, she'd developed an artificial intelligence algorithm that would revolutionize data processing. She'd been featured on magazine covers, called The Next Steve Jobs. Then she met David Wellington at a tech conference. Handsome, charming, and ambitious. He swept her off her feet with promises of building an empire together. When Wellington Industries was founded, it was built on Sarah's revolutionary AI patent, which she'd willingly signed over to their joint venture. "We're partners in everything," David had whispered on their wedding night. "Your brain, my business sense, will change the world." For 20 years, that partnership had worked. While David became the public face of Wellington Industries, Sarah had been the strategic mind behind every major decision. She'd given up her own career ambitions to raise their daughter Riley and support David's vision. She'd been content to be the power behind the throne, the ghost in the machine of their success. Their Greenwich estate overlooked Long Island Sound, a monument to new money trying to look old. Riley was a senior at the prestigious Millbrook Academy, already accepted to Stanford. Life was picture perfect, until 3 months ago, when everything started falling apart. The first sign had been subtle. David, who'd always shared every detail of his day, became vague about his schedule. Board meetings ran late into the night. Business trips stretched longer. He started wearing cologne Sarah didn't recognize and suits cut for a younger man. Then came Riley's graduation party. Sarah had planned everything perfectly, as she always did. The estate's gardens were transformed into an elegant celebration for Riley's acceptance to Stanford. Board members, family friends, and Riley's classmates mingled on the manicured lawns. David arrived 2 hours late with a young woman Sarah didn't recognize. Madison Cole was stunning in that artificial way of modern influencers. All angles and highlights and carefully curated perfection. She clung to David's arm like a piece of expensive jewelry. "Sarah," David announced loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. "This is Madison. She's joining our marketing team." Madison's smile was predatory. "Oh, Sarah, I've heard so much about you. David talks about you all the time." Her tone suggested David's conversations weren't flattering. As the evening progressed, Sarah watched Madison work the crowd with practiced ease. She posed for selfies with Riley's friends, name-dropped celebrities she'd collaborated with, and somehow made every conversation about her social media following. 2.6 million on TikTok, she announced to anyone who'd listen. Brand partnerships with all the major lifestyle companies. I'm really excited to bring that energy to Wellington Industries. Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the evening breeze. This wasn't just a new employee. This was something else entirely. The final blow came as guests were leaving. David cornered Sarah in their kitchen, his face a mask of cold determination. "We need to talk," he said, pulling out an envelope. "My lawyers will be in touch, but I wanted you to hear it from me first. I'm filing for divorce." Sarah's world tilted. "David, what are you talking about? This isn't working anymore. Sarah, we've grown apart. I need someone who understands the modern world, someone who can help take Wellington Industries to the next level." He glanced toward the garden where Madison was taking selfies by the pool. "Someone who gets it." "Gets what exactly?" Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "Youth, energy, innovation, the future." David's words hit like physical blows. "You've been a great partner, Sarah, but that phase of my life is over. Madison and I are building something new." Sarah stared at the divorce papers in her trembling hands. 20 years of marriage, 20 years of partnership, reduced to legal documents. "You're throwing away our family for a social media influencer. I'm choosing my future over my past," David replied coldly. "My lawyers will be generous. You'll be well taken care of. But the house, the company, that's all moving forward with Madison and me." As David walked away, Sarah felt something inside her break. But it wasn't her spirit that shattered, it was her illusions. For the first time in 20 years, she saw David Wellington clearly, and she realized she was looking at a stranger. Sarah spent the first week after David's announcement in a haze of disbelief. She moved through the empty mansion like a ghost, trying to process the destruction of everything she'd built. Riley had returned to school, unaware of the earthquake that had shattered their family foundation. The divorce papers sat on David's desk like a death warrant. Sarah had read them dozens of times, each reading revealing new humiliations. David was claiming she'd been a non-contributing spouse who'd provided only minimal value to Wellington Industries. The financial settlement offered was insulting enough to live comfortably, but nowhere near what she deserved for her contributions to their empire. It was Riley who accidentally showed Sarah the true scope of her husband's betrayal. "Mom, you need to see this," Riley said during their Sunday video call. "It's so weird. My TikTok algorithm keeps showing me this influencer who looks exactly like she could be Dad's daughter." Sarah's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" Riley held up her phone, showing Madison Cole's TikTok profile. The bio read, "Living my best life," with a heart emoji. The recent videos made Sarah's stomach drop. Madison lounging by a pool that looked suspiciously familiar. Madison wearing jewelry Sarah recognized from her own collection. Madison posting a day in my life, content from inside the Wellington Industries headquarters. But it was the most recent video that destroyed Sarah completely. Madison, perfectly lit and camera ready, addressing her followers with practiced intimacy. Hey, gorgeous humans. So many of you have been asking about my new position at Wellington Industries. I can't share all the details yet, but let's just say I'm working very closely with the CEO on some exciting new projects. When you're passionate about innovation and disruption, amazing things happen. The video had over 500,000 likes. The comments were a mixture of admiration and speculation. Girl, you're living the dream. CEO mentorship hits different when you're this talented. Wait, isn't Wellington Industries that billionaire's company, David Wellington Gurley? Shoot your shot. Sarah scrolled deeper into Madison's content, each video revealing another piece of the puzzle. Madison had been posting about Wellington Industries for months, building anticipation for her big announcement. She'd positioned herself as a business prodigy, a young entrepreneur disrupting traditional corporate structures. More disturbing were the subtle digs at outdated corporate wives who couldn't adapt to the modern marketplace. Madison never mentioned Sarah by name, but her followers clearly understood the subtext. Some people cling to the past, Madison said in one video, examining her reflection in what Sarah now realized was the mirror in David's office. But the future belongs to those brave enough to seize it. Sarah's hands shook as she discovered Madison's earlier content. The transformation was remarkable. 6 months ago, Madison had been promoting budget fashion and sharing her struggle to pay student loans. Now she was showcasing designer clothes, expensive dinners, and luxury travel. The timeline was devastating. Madison's upgrade in lifestyle corresponded exactly with David's increasing distance from Sarah. While Sarah had been planning Riley's graduation and managing their household, David had been funding his mistress's influencer lifestyle. But it was Madison's most recent video that revealed the true scope of their planning, posted just days before David served the divorce papers. Madison stood in what was clearly David's private office at Wellington Industries. Sometimes the universe aligns perfectly, she told her followers, her voice dripping with false gratitude. When you manifest your dreams with pure intention, the right opportunities find you. I can't wait to share this incredible journey with all of you. Change is coming, and it's going to be beautiful. The comments on that video showed Madison's followers were fully invested in her success story. They saw her as a modern Cinderella, a regular girl who'd manifested her way into a billionaire's world through positive thinking and strategic content creation. Sarah realized with growing horror that her divorce wasn't just a personal betrayal, it was content. Madison was turning the destruction of Sarah's marriage into entertainment for millions of followers. She scrolled through months of Madison's videos with new understanding. Every random encounter with David at public events, every coincidental appearance at Wellington Industries functions, every carefully staged moment of Madison's organic rise in the company, it had all been choreographed for social media consumption. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from David, "My lawyers need to schedule a deposition. The sooner we handle this professionally, the better for everyone involved." Professional. As if 20 years of marriage was just another business transaction to be optimized and liquidated. Sarah looked back at Madison's TikTok, studying the young woman who was systematically dismantling her life for internet fame. Madison was beautiful, charming, and completely ruthless. But she was also documenting everything. Every video was time-stamped. Every location was tagged. Every interaction was preserved in digital permanence. For the first time since David had handed her the divorce papers, Sarah smiled. Madison's need for constant content creation would provide the rope for her own hanging. Sarah picked up her phone and called the best divorce attorney in New York City. Jackson Hayes' office. "This is Sarah Wellington. I need to schedule an appointment with Mr. Hayes immediately and tell him to clear his calendar. This case is going to be bigger than he expects." Jackson Hayes was exactly what Sarah had hoped for: sharp, experienced, and completely unimpressed by David's wealth or reputation. His Manhattan office overlooked Central Park, its walls lined with law degrees and photographs of Hayes with various political figures and celebrities. "Mrs. Wellington," Hayes said, studying the divorce papers David's legal team had filed, "your husband's attorneys are playing hardball, but they've made several critical errors." Sarah sat across from his mahogany desk, a leather portfolio containing printed screenshots of Madison's TikTok videos in her lap. "What kind of errors?" "They're claiming you made no meaningful contributions to Wellington Industries. That's going to be very difficult to prove when the company was literally built on your patented technology." Hayes smiled grimly. "Did you keep any documentation from the early days?" "Everything," Sarah replied. "I may have been naive about David's character, but I was never careless about business records." Over the next week, Sarah worked with Hayes to build their counteroffensive. She provided emails showing her strategic input on major Wellington Industries decisions, board meeting minutes where her insights had prevented costly mistakes, and most importantly, the original patent documentation proving the company's core technology belonged to her. But Hayes was more interested in Madison's social media presence. "This is extraordinary," he said, scrolling through months of TikTok videos. "She's essentially confessing to an affair and documenting the timeline in real time. Most mistresses try to hide their involvement. She's broadcasting it to millions of people. She thinks she's the hero of her own story." Sarah observed. "In her mind, she's a young entrepreneur who's earned her place through talent and determination." "Well, her delusions of grandeur are going to cost your husband significantly." Hayes made notes on his legal pad. "We're going to demand a forensic accounting of all company resources used to support Ms. Cole's lifestyle, every dinner, every trip, every piece of jewelry he's given her." Sarah felt a flicker of hope for the first time in weeks. Maybe she could fight back after all. The feeling lasted exactly 4 days. Sarah was grocery shopping at the local Whole Foods when she noticed people staring at her. Whispered conversations stopped when she walked by. A teenage cashier looked at her with obvious pity. "Are you okay, ma'am?" the girl asked gently. "I saw the video. That must be really hard." Sarah's blood turned to ice. "What video?" The cashier's face went white. "Oh God, you haven't seen it. I'm so sorry. I thought you knew." Sarah abandoned her groceries and sat in her car, hands shaking as she opened TikTok. Madison's latest video had 3.8 million views and climbing. The caption read, "When someone you care about is struggling with addiction, sometimes love means intervention." The video showed what appeared to be Sarah stumbling through their Greenwich estate, slurring her words and knocking over furniture. Security camera footage caught her apparently taking pills from multiple prescription bottles, washing them down with wine. "This has been going on for months," Madison's voiceover explained sadly. "David's been trying to get Sarah help, but she refuses treatment. It's heartbreaking to watch someone self-destruct this way." The footage was devastating. Sarah watched herself appearing drunk and disoriented in her own home, behaving in ways she didn't remember. The timestamp showed dates from the past several weeks, but Sarah knew with absolute certainty that she hadn't taken any pills beyond her normal vitamins. She rarely drank more than a glass of wine with dinner. The woman in the video looked like her, sounded like her, but wasn't her. The realization hit like a physical blow. Deepfake technology. Madison had created fake videos using artificial intelligence to show Sarah as a drug-addicted alcoholic. The comments were a mixture of sympathy for Madison and disgust for Sarah's apparent addiction. Madison's followers praised her compassion and maturity in speaking her truth about such a difficult situation. "You're so brave for sharing this. David is lucky to have someone who cares enough to help." Sarah needs professional help, not a divorce settlement. Madison is being incredibly gracious. This explains everything. No wonder David moved on. You can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. Sarah's phone exploded with calls from reporters, neighbors, and concerned friends. The video had been picked up by gossip blogs and entertainment news shows. By evening, Wellington wife addiction was trending on multiple social media platforms. David called her that night, his voice cold and satisfied. I warned you not to make this difficult. Sarah, you should have taken my generous offer and disappeared quietly. Those videos are fake. David, you know I don't have a drug problem. Do I? You've been increasingly erratic lately. Forgetful, emotional. Maybe the stress of our failing marriage finally pushed you over the edge. Sarah realized with horror that David was creating an official narrative to match the fake videos. You're going to use this in court. I'm going to use whatever it takes to protect my daughter and my company from your destructive behavior. Riley deserves a stable environment. Riley is my daughter too. Not if you're an unfit parent. My lawyers are filing for emergency custody tomorrow. Madison has graciously agreed to help provide a stable home environment. The line went dead. Sarah sat alone in her kitchen, surrounded by the wreckage of her reputation and her family. Madison's fake videos were spreading across the internet like wildfire, creating a false reality that millions of people now believed. For the first time since David had asked for a divorce, Sarah felt truly defeated. How do you fight an enemy who can literally create lies that look like truth? Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I can help. Meet me at Cafe Luna tomorrow at 2 p.m. Come alone. A friend. Sarah stared at the message. She had nothing left to lose. Cafe Luna was a small, dimly lit coffee shop in the village, the kind of place where artists and writers gathered to nurse espressos and debate philosophy. Sarah arrived early, choosing a corner table where she could watch the entrance. She'd barely slept, her mind racing with possibilities about who had sent the mysterious text. At exactly 2 p.m., a woman in her 30s approached Sarah's table. She had short, dark hair, intelligent eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, and the confident bearing of someone accustomed to being the smartest person in the room. Sarah Wellington. The woman extended her hand. I'm Agent Lisa Chen, FBI Cybercrime Division. I believe we need to talk. Sarah's pulse quickened. FBI, what does the federal government want with my divorce? Your divorce became our business the moment someone started using sophisticated deepfake technology to create false evidence. Agent Chen sat down, ordering black coffee from the approaching waitress. Those videos of you are remarkably well-crafted, professional grade, not something a social media influencer could create alone. You know they're fake. We know a lot of things. Mrs. Wellington? For instance, we know that Madison Cole isn't her real name. She's actually Marie Collins, originally from Detroit. She's worked under at least 6 different identities over the past 5 years. Agent Chen pulled out a tablet, showing Sarah a series of photographs. The same face, but with different hair colors and styles, different names and backstories for each identity. Marie specializes in what we call lifestyle infiltration. She researches wealthy targets, creates a persona that appeals to them, then systematically works her way into their lives. Your husband is her 4th victim that we know of. Sarah studied the photos, her mind reeling. If you know all this, why haven't you arrested her? Because until now, she's been careful to stay just within legal boundaries. Lying about your identity isn't necessarily a crime. Seducing married men for money is morally questionable, but not illegal. Agent Chen leaned forward. But creating deepfake videos to manipulate custody proceedings that crosses several federal lines. Why are you telling me this? Why not just arrest her? Because Marie Collins doesn't work alone. She's part of a larger operation, and we believe your husband's company is the real target. Agent Chen showed Sarah another set of documents: financial records, corporate filings, and communications between shell companies. Wellington Industries has been hemorrhaging money for the past year through a series of questionable deals, contracts with companies that exist only on paper, licensing agreements for technology that doesn't exist. Your husband has been making catastrophically bad business decisions. Sarah frowned. That doesn't sound like David. He might be personally horrible, but he's always been brilliant at business. Unless someone is feeding him information designed to destroy the company from within. Agent Chen's expression was grim. We believe Marie Collins was recruited specifically to compromise David Wellington and gain access to Wellington Industries' proprietary technology. By whom? That's what we need to find out, and we need your help to do it. Agent Chen explained the FBI's theory. Wellington Industries held contracts with several defense contractors, developing AI systems for national security applications. If a foreign entity wanted to steal that technology, infiltrating the company through the CEO's personal life would be an elegant approach. Marie gets David to fall in love with her, convinces him to divorce you, then positions herself as his trusted advisor. Once she has access to the company's systems, she can steal whatever her handlers want. And you want me to help you catch her. We want you to help us find out who's really behind this. Marie is just the weapon. We need to identify who's pointing her at American companies. Sarah felt a cold satisfaction spreading through her chest. Madison Cole, or Marie Collins, or whatever her real name was, had made a critical error. She'd attracted federal attention. What do you need me to do? Agent Chen smiled for the first time since sitting down. You're going to get divorced, Mrs. Wellington, but not quietly, and not on your husband's terms. We're going to make enough noise that Marie's handlers get nervous and start making mistakes. Over the next hour, Agent Chen outlined their strategy. Sarah would continue fighting the divorce publicly, using her legal proceedings to force transparency around Wellington Industries' finances. The FBI would monitor all communications involving David and Marie, looking for evidence of their true controllers. There's one more thing, Agent Chen said as they prepared to leave. Your daughter Riley. Has she had any unusual contact with Marie Collins? Sarah's blood chilled. Why? Because teenage children of targets are often recruited as unwitting sources of information. Marie might be cultivating Riley as a way to gather intelligence about your family dynamics. Sarah thought about Riley's sudden interest in Madison's TikTok videos, her excited questions about Madison's mentorship of young women in business. What had seemed like normal teenage fascination with social media now looked sinister. I need to warn Riley. No, Agent Chen said firmly. If Riley is being manipulated, warning her could alert Marie that we're investigating. For now, monitor their interactions, but don't intervene unless Riley is in immediate danger. Sarah left the cafe with her head spinning. Her personal betrayal was actually part of a larger conspiracy that threatened national security. Madison Cole was a professional infiltrator, and David was just another mark. But for the first time since her world had collapsed, Sarah felt like she had allies. The FBI wanted the same thing she did to expose Madison's true nature and hold her accountable for her crimes. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from David. Riley is coming home this weekend. Madison is excited to finally spend some quality time with her. Sarah's hands clenched around her phone. Riley was walking into a trap, and Sarah couldn't warn her without compromising the federal investigation. She was going to have to watch her daughter being manipulated by a foreign operative, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Riley Wellington had always been mature for her 17 years, but watching her interact with Madison that weekend broke Sarah's heart in ways she hadn't expected. Her daughter, normally skeptical and sharp-tongued, was completely charmed by the woman who was systematically destroying their family. Madison had prepared for Riley's visit like a military operation. The Greenwich estate had been redecorated with subtle touches designed to appeal to a teenage girl, and Madison had researched Riley's interests thoroughly. Riley, sweetheart. Madison embraced Sarah's daughter like they were old friends. Your dad talks about you constantly. Sarah watched from the kitchen doorway as Madison worked her magic, referencing Riley's college plans, her environmental activism, and even her recent breakup. Stanford is going to be incredible for you. Madison gushed. I have so many connections in Silicon Valley. I could introduce you to some amazing female entrepreneurs. Riley's eyes lit up. Really, Dad said you know people at some of the major tech companies. When you're building a personal brand in the digital space, networking becomes second nature. Madison showed Riley her TikTok analytics. 2.6 million followers don't just happen by accident. Sarah felt sick watching Riley hang on Madison's every word. Madison was a professional, and she'd clearly studied Riley's vulnerabilities. As the weekend progressed, Sarah watched Madison systematically gather information about their family while positioning herself as Riley's mentor. She asked innocent-seeming questions about Sarah's daily routines, her mood changes, her relationships. Your mom seems really stressed lately, Madison said sympathetically during a conversation Sarah overheard. Divorce is so hard on families. I just want you to know that whatever happens, you'll always have support from me and your dad. Thanks, Riley replied quietly. Mom has been acting kind of weird. She seems paranoid about everything. Madison was expertly reframing Sarah's legitimate concerns as signs of instability. Every protective instinct Sarah had as a mother was being twisted into evidence of paranoia. The weekend's climax came Sunday evening when Madison arranged a girls' dinner just for her and Riley. When Riley returned home that night, she seemed different, distant. How was dinner? Sarah asked, trying to keep her voice casual. It was good, Riley replied shortly. Madison gave me some really good advice about handling college stress. That night, Sarah received a call from Jackson Hayes. We have a problem, her attorney said without preamble. David's legal team filed a motion for emergency custody of Riley. They're claiming you've been emotionally manipulating her and creating an unstable home environment. Based on what evidence? A sworn affidavit from Riley herself, stating that you've been asking her inappropriate questions about her social media accounts and trying to turn her against her father and Madison. Sarah felt the room spin around her. Riley wrote an affidavit against me. Apparently, Madison Cole helped her draft it. The motion paints Cole as a stabilizing influence who's been helping Riley cope with your allegedly erratic behavior. After hanging up, Sarah sat alone in her kitchen, surrounded by the echoes of 20 years of family life. Madison's influence was like a virus, systematically destroying every relationship Sarah valued. But Agent Chen had been right about one thing. Madison was just the weapon. Someone else was pulling the strings, and they wanted more than just Sarah's marriage. Sarah picked up her phone and scrolled through Madison's latest TikTok videos. Her daughter appeared in several of them, laughing and bonding with the woman who was stealing her life. But for the first time, Sarah noticed something Madison probably hadn't intended to reveal. In the background of one video, taken in David's home office, Sarah could see computer screens displaying what looked like Wellington Industries' proprietary code. Sarah screenshot the image and texted it to Agent Chen. She's getting sloppy. The response came back immediately. Perfect. Keep watching. We're close. The custody hearing was a masterclass in legal brutality. David's attorneys had transformed the courtroom into a theater where Sarah was the villain and Madison was the sympathetic heroine. Riley sat behind David's legal team, refusing to make eye contact with her mother. She looked older somehow, her face set in the same determined expression David wore when he'd made up his mind about something. "Your Honor," David's lead attorney began, "we're here today because a 17-year-old girl is being emotionally manipulated by a mother who refuses to accept reality." Sarah watched helplessly as they presented their case. Riley's affidavit was read aloud, describing Sarah's increasingly erratic behavior. Madison's TikTok videos were shown as evidence of Sarah's alleged substance abuse. When Jackson Hayes tried to challenge the evidence, claiming the videos were deep fakes, the judge seemed skeptical. "Mr. Hayes, are you seriously suggesting that Ms. Cole has the technical expertise to create Hollywood-level special effects? We believe Ms. Cole has had assistance from unknown parties with sophisticated technological capabilities." David's attorney laughed. "Your Honor, this is exactly the kind of paranoid thinking that has made Mrs. Wellington's daughter so uncomfortable." During recess, Riley approached Sarah in the hallway, her face a mask of cold disappointment. "Mom, why are you doing this?" "Riley, sweetheart, I'm trying to protect you. Madison isn't who she seems to be. Madison has been nothing but kind to me." Riley's voice was steady and adult-like. "You're embarrassing yourself with these accusations." "Riley, please listen to me. Madison is using you. I used to think you were the smartest person I knew. Now you just seem crazy." The words hit Sarah like physical blows. When court resumed, the judge delivered her ruling. "Based on the evidence presented, including the testimony of the minor child herself, I'm granting temporary custody to Mr. Wellington, Mrs. Wellington will have supervised visitation rights pending a full psychological evaluation." Outside the courthouse, reporters shouted questions as Madison and David posed for photos with Riley standing beside them like a happy family. "Sarah, wait." She turned to find Madison approaching alone, her expression sympathetic. "I just wanted you to know that I'm going to take good care of Riley." Sarah stared at the young woman who destroyed her life with such methodical precision. "Why are you doing this?" "I'm not doing anything except falling in love with an amazing man and trying to help his daughter through a difficult time. The videos of me are fake. You know I don't have a drug problem." Madison's expression didn't change. "Sarah, I think you're having trouble distinguishing between reality and your fears." For just a moment, Madison's mask slipped. Sarah saw something cold and calculating in her eyes. Then the sympathetic expression returned. "Who are you really working for?" Sarah asked quietly. "I'm working for my own happiness. Sarah, something you might try sometime." As Sarah drove home to her empty house, she felt the full weight of her isolation, but she still had Agent Chen, and she still had the truth. Her phone buzzed with a text, "Check Madison's TikTok. New video posted 5 minutes ago." Madison's latest video showed her hugging Riley outside the courthouse. The video had already received hundreds of thousands of views, with Madison turning Sarah's loss of custody into content for her followers. But this time, Sarah noticed something Madison had missed. In the background of the courthouse footage was a man Sarah recognized from Agent Chen's photographs, one of the suspected foreign operatives. Sarah forwarded the screenshot to Agent Chen. "Is this him?" The response came immediately. "Yes, we have them. Maintain your cover for 48 more hours." Agent Chen's safe house was a nondescript apartment in Queens. Sarah sat across from a conference table covered with photographs and surveillance equipment. "Alexei Petrov," Agent Chen said, pointing to the man Sarah had spotted. "Russian intelligence. He's been running tech infiltration operations for 3 years." Sarah studied the photographs. "How long has he been controlling Madison?" We believe she was recruited 4 years ago when she was Marie Collins, a struggling actress in Los Angeles. Agent Chen showed Sarah a timeline of Madison's targets: a defense contractor in California, a biotech executive in Seattle, and an aerospace engineer in Texas. Your husband was always the primary target. Wellington Industries has contracts with the Defense Department, developing AI systems for autonomous weapons. That technology is worth billions to foreign governments. So everything that's happened to my family has been about stealing military secrets. Everything. The affair, the divorce, even turning Riley against you. Agent Chen explained their plan. Sarah would publicly surrender, accepting David's divorce terms. This apparent defeat would make Madison overconfident, leading her to move quickly to access Wellington Industries' most sensitive data. We need her to commit a provable crime. David is going to propose to her tomorrow night at the company's annual board meeting. Sarah's stomach turned. He's really going to marry her. He doesn't know he's not going to get the chance. Agent Chen showed Sarah the surveillance setup. Wellington Industries' offices were now completely monitored. The moment Madison tried to access classified systems, they would have everything they needed. Riley will be at the board meeting. Madison plans to use her as a prop, showing how well she's integrated into David's family. Sarah closed her eyes, imagining her daughter watching David propose to Madison. What happens to Riley when this all comes out? That's why we need you there. Riley is going to need her mother when her world falls apart. The Wellington Industries annual board meeting was decorated for celebration. Madison worked the room like a political candidate, discussing company strategy with board members who hung on her every word. Riley stood near the windows, looking miserable despite the festive atmosphere. Sarah caught her daughter's eye across the room, offering a tentative smile. Riley looked away. At exactly 8 p.m., David called for everyone's attention. This has been an extraordinary year for Wellington Industries, and it's time to announce some exciting changes. He turned to Madison, pulling out a small velvet box. Madison Cole, you've brought light and innovation to my life and my company. Will you marry me? Madison's gasp seemed genuine as she accepted the ring. The room burst into applause. I also want to announce that Madison will be joining Wellington Industries as our new Chief Innovation Officer. Madison's eyes shone with triumph as she looked directly at Sarah. Sarah's earpiece crackled. She's moving. Madison just excused herself. She's heading for David's office. Madison's heels clicked confidently down the corridor. Through her earpiece, Sarah heard Agent Chen's team target entering the executive suite, all recording devices active. David's assistant approached with a concerned expression. Ms. Cole asked me to tell you she needed to handle an urgent social media crisis from your office. Sarah's earpiece crackled. She's at the computer, accessing the protected network now. David started toward his office, but Sarah grabbed his arm. David, wait. We need to talk. Right now. Sarah, this isn't the time. Madison needs my help. Madison doesn't need anything from you. She never did. Before Sarah could explain, Agent Chen's voice filled her earpiece. Moving now, all units go. Federal agents poured through the entrances. Board members gasped as armed FBI agents took positions throughout the room. Nobody move, Agent Chen commanded. This is a federal operation. David's face went white. What the hell is happening? The sound of commotion echoed from David's office. Madison's distinctive voice screaming in fury. Let go of me. You have no right. 2 FBI agents escorted Madison into the conference room in handcuffs. Her designer dress was wrinkled, her perfect hair disheveled, and her makeup streaked with tears of rage. David, Madison called out desperately. Tell them this is a mistake. Agent Chen stepped forward. Marie Collins, also known as Madison Cole, You're under arrest for espionage, computer fraud, and conspiracy against the United States government. Marie Collins, David repeated weakly. Your fiancée is a Russian intelligence asset. She was recruited 4 years ago to infiltrate American technology companies and steal classified information. Riley gasped, her grip on Sarah's arm tightening. That's impossible. Agent Chen read from a tablet. Marie Collins, born Detroit, Michigan, multiple arrests for fraud and identity theft. Previous targets include defense contractors in California, Washington, and Texas. Madison's mask finally slipped completely. You have no idea what you've done. Years of work destroyed by a bitter housewife who couldn't accept reality. Reality. Sarah stepped closer. The reality is that you're a criminal who tried to steal military secrets by destroying my family. I gave David everything he wanted. You were just dead weight holding him back. Riley stared at Madison in horror. You said you cared about me. Madison looked at the 17-year-old girl she'd manipulated so expertly. You were useful. Smart girls always are. Riley's face crumpled as Madison's betrayal hit her. Everything had been a lie. As the agents led Madison away, she called out, My lawyers will have me out in hours. But Sarah could see the fear in Madison's eyes. The woman who'd seemed so untouchable was finally facing consequences. Riley collapsed into Sarah's arms, sobbing. Mom, I'm so sorry. I believed everything she said. Sarah held her daughter tightly. You couldn't have known, sweetheart. She was a professional. David approached slowly, his face a mask of shame. Sarah, I don't know what to say. I destroyed our family for a spy. Sarah looked at the man she'd been married to for 20 years. You destroyed our family for your ego. David, Madison just gave you an excuse. The federal courthouse was a fortress of marble and steel. Sarah sat behind the prosecution table, watching as Marie Collins was led into the courtroom in shackles. 3 months had passed since Madison's arrest. Gone was the polished influencer. The woman facing espionage charges looked tired, ordinary, and very young. Riley sat beside Sarah, no longer the manipulated teenager who'd testified against her own mother. They'd worked to rebuild their relationship, and Riley was resilient. The prosecution's case was methodical and devastating. They presented Madison's communications with her Russian handlers, her pattern of targeting wealthy men in the defense industry, and most damning, her own TikTok videos. The defendant didn't just steal secrets, the prosecutor said. She weaponized social media to destroy an American family. When Madison testified in her own defense, claiming she'd been coerced by Russian handlers, her story fell apart under cross-examination. Ms. Collins, you posted over 300 TikTok videos documenting your relationship with David Wellington. Did your Russian handlers force you to create that content? Madison's need for social media validation had been her downfall, creating an insurmountable evidence trail. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. On the charge of conspiracy to commit espionage, we find the defendant guilty. Judge Harrison's sentencing was swift 25 years in federal prison, with no possibility of parole for 15 years. As Madison was led away, she turned one final time to look at the Wellington family. I could have been somebody real, she said quietly. Then she was gone. Outside the courthouse, Riley squeezed her mother's hand. I'm proud of you, Mom. You saved our family. Sarah smiled, feeling lighter than she had in months. We saved each other, sweetheart. That's what families do. 1 year later, Sarah Wellington stood in the Wellington Industries conference room, addressing the board as the company's new CEO. Our third quarter results exceed all projections, Sarah reported. Revenue is up 37%. And our new cybersecurity division has attracted major contracts. The board members who'd once treated her as David's accessory now hung on her every word. After Madison's conviction revealed massive security vulnerabilities, the board had turned to Sarah to save the company from bankruptcy. The Justice Department has cleared us to resume work on the autonomous weapons project. Our new security protocols have been tested by the best cybersecurity firms. We're officially unhackable. Sarah's favorite innovation was the Truth Protocol AI technology that could detect deepfake videos in real time and trace social media manipulation campaigns. She'd weaponized her trauma into a tool for protecting other families. After the meeting, Riley knocked on Sarah's office door, carrying coffee from downstairs. At 18, she'd grown into a confident young woman who seemed older and wiser than her years. "How did the board meeting go?" Riley asked. "They approved the expansion into Europe. Wellington Industries is going global." Riley smiled. "Madison would hate that you're succeeding with her precious social media expertise." Madison's expertise was always fake. She was good at manipulation, not innovation. Riley had maintained a complicated relationship with David, though she'd chosen Columbia over Stanford to stay close to home. She was studying computer science with a focus on cybersecurity. "There's something else," Sarah said, pulling out an envelope. "The FBI wants me to head a new task force on corporate espionage." "Would you take it?" Sarah considered. "I think I'm more useful here. Wellington Industries can do more good creating defensive technology than I could chasing individual spies." As evening approached, Sarah and Riley walked through Central Park, a routine established during the difficult months after Madison's arrest. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if Madison had succeeded?" Riley asked. "You would have grown up thinking manipulation was normal. David would have lost everything when Madison's handlers decided he was no longer useful. And I would have spent my life believing I was the failure Madison convinced everyone I was." "I have news," Riley said suddenly. "I'm changing my major to psychology with a focus on social media manipulation. I want to help other families recognize the warning signs." Sarah hugged her daughter tightly. Riley was choosing to transform her trauma into purpose, just as Sarah had done. Madison's biggest mistake was underestimating our ability to heal and grow stronger. She thought destroying our trust would break us permanently. She never considered that surviving her attack would make us unbreakable. That evening, Agent Chen called with news of 2 other women using similar tactics in California. Sarah agreed to consult remotely, but wasn't interested in traveling to chase ghosts. Riley looked up from her psychology textbooks. "Everything okay?" "Everything's perfect," Sarah replied, and meant it. Outside. The first snow of winter began to fall, covering the estate's gardens in pristine white. Sarah smiled as she watched her daughter study. They had survived a professional predator's best efforts and emerged stronger than ever. The influencer's downfall was complete, but their story was just beginning.